Hey, everybody, welcome to the Daily Objective. And we're going to be talking about the anti-rich Malthusianism that is sweeping, well, at least Twitter at the moment. But, Malthus, or whatever his name was, excuse me, I'm unprepared. But he predicted, I think sometime in the 19th century, that we're going to run out of stuff or that the world is going to be overpopulated. And that type of prediction, obviously, we've seen it a lot since then. You know, when I was growing up, I heard about overpopulation. In the 90s, they were saying, oh, no, there's going to be too many people. But not only has it been happening repeatedly, people making that prediction since him, but really, I think you could also link it to earlier than him, going back to the Dark Ages, to the mystical cries of doom and gloom. The Armageddon, I think, is one of the early versions of this. And maybe there's many more examples of it the farther back you look in human history. In any case, we're going to be talking about its current incarnation as it's being blended with environmentalism, and specifically, we're going to overpopulate because of capitalism, is my understanding. Basically, rich people are what need to be abolished. Here to help me understand this, for crying out loud, is a guy all the way from Greece. And let me quickly ask, please super chat us. We want to know what you think. We're going to get to your super chats in a moment. We already got a couple. This is it, folks. Super chat us now, or the world is going to end and there'll be too many people to feed. It's Nikos Sotirakopoulos.
Thank you. So the issue of Malthusian is for me so important because it was key in my intellectual development. Because the idea that there are too many people on planet Earth and therefore the industrial society is bad or capitalism is bad is at the center of most of the things that are wrong with people's understanding about the world today. But in the case of a Labour MP, of MP Claudia Webbe, so she managed to combine two forms of, in my opinion, huge mistakes: Malthusianism with hatred for the rich. So listen to this tweet. Earth is overpopulated. There are too many rich people. To solve the climate crisis, the rich must be abolished. Now, I hate it when people jump into bad conclusions about someone's tweet without knowing stuff. So I try to do the most friendly reading. Maybe says, Earth is overpopulated, there are too many rich people. She's kind of, maybe she's joke says, haha, I don't mean there are too many people, but see what I did there are too many rich people. But then the next line, the rich must be abolished. So the thing that came to my mind half jokingly, but only half jokingly, was this is like 21st century cool Pol Pot stuff. Because this is the last time I literally heard the rich have to be abolished. And following that tweet, and again, I always can give the benefit of the doubt, okay, that person might be joking. Following the thread, I saw statistics that said that rich are the biggest polluters. And here we have a very, very in-your-face anti-rich sentiment, but I don't want to focus too much on the MP, although I have a friend who is a common friend of both of us who said you should, because that person is one step away from power. But anyway, so the problem is that this sentiment is relatively to everyone, most of the people out there. So she bases this on a research by the UN that says that the top, let's say, 5% contribute 37% of the emissions. So there are two or three things that are very interesting to me here. I will start with some context. So what is this idea that there are too many people? So this has been one of the most powerful tools in the environmental movement, particularly in its early stages in the 1960s. It was the idea that we are going to run out of resources. And it was based on something that on a first level made some sense. So the idea was, look, you have an exponential growth of human beings, but resources remain the same. So it's not that oil gives birth to oil the way human beings give birth to human beings. So around that time, there were some very, very pessimistic predictions. And perhaps the most famous one is Paul Ehrlich. So Paul Ehrlich wrote a book in the late 60s called The Population Bomb. And he said within a decade, we're within mass starvation, and he made some even more doomsday predictions. Now, we have to understand Paul Ehrlich was not the Alex Jones of his time. He was a mainstream figure. He's still in top-level institutions and universities. And he's still claiming that, yeah, maybe there was not mass starvation back then, but my initial prediction was maybe not strong enough because we're heading there.
Can you repeat the word you said? There's not what by then?
Mass starvation.
Okay, I thought you said something else a couple of times there.
You probably thought I said, okay, I don't
Doesn't matter. Go on.
Mass starvation, not the other thing with similar.
We can continue, please.
We can continue, yeah. So why again did he predict that? Because the idea is there are too many mouths to be fed, not enough sources. And actually, one of the most funny, interesting moments of this debate is when someone, let's say from our side, Paul Simon, the economist, said, okay, do you want to put your wallet where your mouth is? Let's put a bet. So if you put on Wikipedia or if you Google Paul Ehrlich, Paul Simon, by the way, is he Paul Simon? No, Paul Simon is the singer. Okay, I'm probably talking about Julian Simon here, and I've already called. So it's Julian Simon, obviously, and it's the Simon Ehrlich bet. So Julian Simon says, okay, let's bet that within 10 years or so, I bet you that the price of these quote scarce resources are not going to go up as much as you think. And of course, he won the bet. And of course, every time the Malthusians have been wrong. People who believe that overpopulation is a problem have been wrong. Why do we call them Malthusians? Because they started from an economist called Thomas Malthus in the 19th century. But here what's very, very, very interesting. The first quote Malthusians can be found from the ancient times when the population of the earth was around 180 million people. So already from there, they say, we are going to run out of resources. And here's the question, the quiz to you and the audience before we go to the hatred of the rich and how these two are related. What has been the number one mistake of the Malthusians? What is the one mistake in their otherwise thought that makes sense? That look, population goes up, we've gone from 180 million to 7 billion, resources stay the same, therefore at some point we're going to obviously run out of resources. So where are they wrong? What's your take?
They treat resources like the primary, as though we can't come up with new resources, use new types of resources. They're removing the intellectual component of human life and acting like it's similar to the Marxists. And in Atlas Shrugged, there's this interesting sort of narrative that Rand kind of pauses and describes about how like the human mind, like a person thinking, came up with all the complex machinery of a train station, but the world is now in a place where people think the person flipping the switch is the one making it happen, something like that. And similarly here, people act like the natural resources are in charge and we better respect them, but really we create them. The oil sat for centuries beneath the ground, and the Arabs didn't know what to do with it, says Rand, not in a racist way, but referring to that part of the world. The Western Enlightenment influenced people, showed them what to do with the oil. That's their mistake.
Exactly. So I think it's what Julian Simon who's put it this way, that the one scarce resource is this one, is the human mind. So the mistake that the Malthusians do time and again is that they see human beings as mouths to be fed, as we're only consumers of resources. They don't realize that we're actually producers of resources. And now actually, before I go to the MP and her anti-rich sentiment, one more thing. Why is it that the population rises so fast? It's not because we give birth like rabbits. It's not like suddenly we have 35 kids each, that's why the population rises. That's one way the population would rise. But there's a second way the population can rise, and it's excellent news. It basically means we're not dying. The stuff that the population is rising means that people don't die younger. This is what, for some reason, Malthusians view as a big problem. So there is a bit of misanthropy in Malthusianism. And actually, if you go and historically see it, you're going to see that Malthusianism was a very reactionary movement. So you see conservatives back in the 19th century, you see reactionaries in the 20th century, you see fascists being fascinated with Malthusianism, because Julius Evola, for example, okay, not 100% fascist, but related to fascism. Evola says, what's the problem? Too many of these people whom we don't want. He basically talks about races that he's not happy with. But also, progressive today Malthusians, when they talk about overpopulation, what areas do they mean? They talk about we need to have these programs in Africa, of course, to help these people and all that stuff. So there's always this elitism and this sometimes hidden or not so hidden racism. But anyway, I don't want to talk specifically on Malthusianism because, again, somehow this MP manages to put together two colossal historical mistakes, which is Malthusianism and anti-rich sentiments. So again, the rich is the one category, maybe also the whites, but particularly the rich, that an MP could say, I want them to be abolished, and there's no problem. Yesterday we mentioned the BLM leader who said, well, Lenin and Mao have been these social philosophers that have influenced me. And it's like, oh, that's so cool. And today someone says, let's abolish the rich. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's interesting. Like, I didn't see any reaction from the parliament. What exactly do you mean abolish? Do you mean take away their property, which for most of the people would say, yeah, okay, that's okay. You know, we're just going to take your money, okay, maybe even your house, but that's all. So what exactly does it mean to abolish the rich? So here's the question to you, Rucka, from me. Because initially, when Razi brought this to my attention, I was like, oh, come on, that's a joke, that's a way of talking. But then I thought, maybe we should not cut here such a slack. What do you think?
So why are the rich like?
So the rich are to be abolished. Okay, context. The rich are to be abolished because then she posted the research because they contribute too much emissions to the environment. So again, the tweet is to solve the second part of the tweet. To solve the climate crisis, the rich must be abolished. So now we've gone from a Malthusianism that says everyone is the problem to a sophisticated Malthusian says, no, data shows that it's the rich that are the problem because they take all these flights and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of showing the true intentions of environmentalism is just to attack the rich or the productive, attack production. And you go even deeper than that. It's more than anti-capitalist. It's anti-reality. This topic, environmentalism in all of its forms, is near and dear to me because that's kind of where I was at before picking up the fountainhead as a teenager. Like I was I went down that path. First, reject religion, but not really knowing what's next, kind of be fascinated with the Enlightenment. And then that devolves into skepticism, and that devolves into nihilism, and enter environmentalism, enter anti-capitalism. And I can tell you, no argument in the world would have changed my mind. Like no logical argument about standard of living, about, you know, that, well, capitalism is so much better. Look at all the money that people are enjoying. That was not my motivation. My motivation was motivated by frustration, envy, and, you know, not lack of direction, lack of clear set of values. And in that is how Rand got me to rethink all of that and to sort of follow her down her path, was with inspiration, reading The Fountainhead. So these people are not motivated by economics. They're not motivated by wanting to save lives, by wanting to save the planet. They sort of image as that is sort of their ideal is like the planet minus humans. And, you know, it is great when people like Alex Epstein point out, like, yeah, this is these guys' premise, that the ideal to strive for is the planet unmolested by humanity. And we should rethink that as humans. Is that what we want? And a lot of people might probably change their mind when it's presented to them that way. But like the intellectuals themselves, like the I guess the prime movers, these sort of big shots of the intellect, the people who are passionately environmentalist and passionately sort of anti-human, the battle with them is fundamental. The battle with them is like, hold on, are you sure you're rejecting values, and why? And I mean, that at the end of the day, it is an epistemological and ethical battle that this boils down to.
And notice though that here the NP does not put forward the green issue, but she puts forward also the socialist agenda. And here's another big mistake. So how is it that we have this coal that we were using for makeup in the ancient times, and then it fueled the Industrial Revolution, or you mentioned oil. Who are the people behind all this? Who are the people behind taking these resources and making something out of them? It's the people. She says they're the rich. So basically, she wants to punish the people who have given us these things, such as being able to travel, being able to fly. You know how thankful I am that I am basically door to door, 11 hours away from home. I mean, I really feel gratitude to the fact that I can take an airplane and fly. And I will mention the airplane thing again, because aviation industry is unfortunately at the center of their criticism. We mentioned yesterday how in France, they have banned the short haul flights. But notice also something else. Notice how she has already triumphed on the moral level, because listen to some of the replies to her tweet. So there are the usual replies who don't really get, who says, but you are rich, so will you abolish yourself? Okay, that's like taking the piece, as we say in the UK, but this is not really about focusing on the center. So listen to these two replies. I'm in the top 1%. I rarely fly and I don't own a car. I've cut down my meat consumption. I don't have kids and I recycle obsessively. But yeah, I'm the problem. So notice what this very honorable person, and I mean it, looks genuinely like a great person who has this guilt inside him. So this is what this morality does to you. You have achieved stuff, but you have to apologize to someone who wants to abolish you. I mean, think about it. You feel the need to qualify yourself to the person who is telling you basically that you are this almost, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but anyway, she says you have to be abolished. And his replies, but I didn't do these things. I don't fly. I don't eat meat. Please, I'm not part of the problem. And listen, someone else. I used to be a horrible banker. I've never used the NHS. No kids taking up school space. No public transport except for trains. Parentheses, it costs a fortune. Paid hundreds of thousands in taxes. Again, you see this very seemingly good person, productive person, having to apologize, almost apologetic, saying, oh, don't put me into, I'm not like this rich. I haven't contributed to that. This is the lack of what I call self-esteem. And I don't mean these people personally in their life self-esteem, but the way they view themselves as producers. No, people, you shouldn't apologize. You should say, who are you to tell that? By what right do you want the rich abolished? And by the way, while we're at it, what have you contributed to people's lives? What have you contributed except from this? Again, this is the othering that leads back to dark times. This idea that we need to abolish the rich, this has been behind some of the worst moments of the 20th century. And again, I don't want to use the Pol Pot cards, but this is like this kind of material. And I will do it because when someone says something slightly controversial, they say, oh, but this is what the slave owners or literally Hitler. Well, this is like literally the egalitarian collectivist of the 20th century. Except, again, maybe the MP was kidding and were very unjust, but that's not what I got from this tweet. And again, the point is not the MP. The point is that this was a tweet that's going to be forgotten in 2 days, but this sentiment is there.
It's there for sure. I mean, it was in the world when this lady grew up, and it will be there when her, sadly, it will probably be there if and when her children are growing up, and it'll be in children's TV shows and in elementary school and earlier, and it'll be in the culture. And the kind of worst of all, when kids look out into the world and they ask what else is out there, the vast majority of adults agree with this premise that this lady has. And when it comes to these producers that are apologizing, I mean, we can say they lack self-esteem personally, in that as much as they have an ego in a good way, as much as they have an ego when it comes to getting the job done, they're not willing to die for it, right? They're not like, I think the world needs to be at a place where industrialists are as protective and emotionally invested in their work as Ayn Rand is invested in her writings, as Ayn Rand is on her philosophy. If someone tried to misrepresent, speak on her behalf and distort her philosophy or or insult her work, or in some way someone would have tried to come between her and her novels, you know, her earrings would come off, to put it in street language.
Soft clip material here. I really like that. I really like that. Okay, looks like we have a super chat.
Yeah, we got a few super chats. So first, Bonnie with $5 says, American, by the way, irrationalism is having a field day. Thanks for fighting back. You're welcome. You know, we're having fun, but I hope that we're offering an alternative to a lot of people that, again, all they see is one opinion out there. Fundamentally, Robert with $5, American, says no money. Wait, we're supposed to be anti-rich? Yikes. Here, take some more of my money quick. Yeah, it's a good point. If you agree that money is evil and that capitalism is the problem, please get rid of your money. I promise you we will waste it, basically, from your perspective, the way you see it, if that's what you think. We will throw the money towards a philosophy that you disagree with and that most people will not give the time of day. Anyway, I'll stop with my little quirks and antics. Back to the super chat. Marilyn with $5, American, says they don't like people very much. Yeah, it's true. They hate the rich because they're people, not because they're rich. There's a little clip for you. That could fit on a Vine. That could fit on a 6-second Vine video.
No, by the way, I really believe that with some Malthusians, this is the case, particularly if you go in the writings and see how they refer to the people. And notice how usual, anyway, I can rant about Malthusians for long because, again, it strikes in the center for me because I used to be that guy. Anyway, go on.
And it goes deeper than Malthus, Mr. Malthusian, Malthus. It goes deeper than him. I mean, he goes deeper than concern with the planet and with the population. All right, going with $5, American. A lot of Americans out here. It's the Ayn Rand Center UK. I'm not seeing a lot of pounds and euros. He says, can these people really be referred to as progressives if all their ideas are regressive? Whoa, checkmate, I say.
By the way, something that I want to discuss with people on Clubhouse before we go to the outro.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Pol Pot thing too much? So is it like the East Germany thing? Rice says no. Anyway, yeah, by the way, the fact that we have the episode today is because Razi can spot these things in the air. And what happens usually is he calls me, I say, no, come on, that's not serious. And then after 2 seconds, I'm like, no, actually, you're right. This is serious. So, okay, let me make 2 suggestions before we go. Obviously, you already mentioned the book by Alex Epstein, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, because it gives a different perspective. And I will mention a book from my mentor, Frank Furedi, from my PhD days, who wrote a book called Population and Development, A Critical Introduction. So if you Google Frank Furedi Population, this was a book that changed my mind. From a properly progressive and not in quotes point of view, as I've said in the past, Frank Furedi was a Marxist, but a humanist and a liberal with a true sense of the world. So this book really, really changed my view on the topic. And it was at the beginning when I started my whole shift. So that's why, again, I said the population issue is in my heart. This is a Nikos recommendation, not an objectivist or an ARC UK recommendation, obviously.
And we recommend The Fountainhead. If you're new to Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, especially the latter, I think gets down to the fundamentals, but they both are indispensable to understanding an alternative to what it is we're seeing in the world. You know, the good student in the chat is asking, you know, doesn't this all sound a bit Christian? Guilt, original sins? I mean, yes, it is. And definitely. I mean, Ayn Rand, she talks about mystics of the spirit and mystics of muscle and how Christianity is still among us in a secular form. Yes, go ahead, Nikos.
Very good point. Good student. Notice also something else similar to religion. Also, the way that you repent, or how do they call it in church, is the same. So you have this guilt. The mere fact that you breathe is guilt. That's why we have to count to measure your carbon footprint. But how can you repent? Next time you take the plane, you can buy off some of your carbon footprint, or however this thing is called, right? So you can pay some money, like it used to be with the Catholic Church. You get this paper which says you are excused, or anyway, I have the Greek terminology in my mind. Very good point. There's something very, very religious in that. Not in the good way, because at least there is a heaven in religion. Here, there is no heaven. Here, you have to suffer, and maybe after some generations, nature or these things that supposedly have value beyond yourself, because somehow nature has quote inherent value according to some deep ecologists. By the way, we did a whole episode. Sorry, it wasn't an episode. It was an event on deep ecology. Production team, we're going to put it at the end screen. But yeah, there's a real religious element there. Anyway, fascinating topic today in a bad way. Fascinating in terms of how bad these ideas were, but interesting. Razi says, sorry, go ahead and then to the outro.
But also optimistic, because we have an alternative and we're thinking about what's possible if people embrace it. Fabian with the super chat, 2 Swiss francs, says, Nikos, wasn't Marx a critic of Malthus?
Yes, thank you, Fabian. Thank you, Fabian. So the biggest debate, the biggest debate, that's intellectual debate that Malthus had was with Marx. It wasn't a direct debate, but Marx kind of replied to him. So there you see, let's say, the good Marx, the Marx who was the humanist, the good version of the early Marx. Again, within a context, in many quotation marks, don't tell me, oh, Nikos. But Marx, in the way he dealt with Malthus, he was on the good side and he dealt with him in a good way. Again, if you want more on that, check out Frank Furedi's book. It's from 97, but it's a good book, Population and Development, a critical introduction.
Yeah. Look, a quick thought, just the disagreements between Marx and Malthus are superficial, just like the differences between the secular environmentalists and the Dark Age Christians are superficial. They agree that the end of days is coming. They agree that human reason and its application to the planet we live on is problematic and don't do it. They agree on fundamentals. So what Ayn Rand does is she identifies those fundamentals. She painstakingly untangles the influence of various modern philosophers and offers a very clear and beautiful alternative. So anyone, the good student is asking a lot of questions, and these are great questions. I would really recommend reading Ayn Rand and and give her a chance. Anyway, we're jumping over to Clubhouse now, guys. Clubhouse is the hot new app, and if you don't have it, get it ASAP. We're going over there immediately as soon as we end here. Join us there. We want to hear what you think. You can join us on stage and tell us why Malthus is correct or whatever it is you want to say. And then there's more. Hold on. What are you about to tell me? All right. At 7 p.m. UK time, so coming up soon, Don Watkins and James Valiant will discuss Ayn Rand's essay, Man's Rights, on this YouTube channel. So set a reminder for that and join us here on this channel for that. And that's not all. At 9 p.m. UK time on Radio Ragnar, that's the name of our Clubhouse radio station. So at 9 p.m. on Clubhouse, 9 p.m. UK time on Clubhouse, the premiere of Flirting with Reason with Nikos and Maria. Yo, that is going to be hot. I am looking forward to that. So definitely join Clubhouse if you were sort of on the fence.
Sorry, for people who don't know, this is a show where we discuss romance and where we discuss all things related to that. A bit like the Selfish Lovers, but on a more free-flowing Clubhouse interaction with the audience.
The audience, absolutely. Come join them there and flirt on your own at your own risk. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back here for the Daily Objective tomorrow. Link to Clubhouse. Look up Radio Ragnar, RAGNAR, or look up Ayn Rand Center UK, or click a link if and when Razi posts one. But we're jumping over to Clubhouse. Currently, if you already have a Clubhouse account, you should be able to find us. If you don't have Clubhouse currently, look into getting it ASAP. We are there every day. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.